They say that in a professional setting, a seasoned interrogator can extract useful information over 90% of the time. 90%. Think about that. That means 9 times out of 10, a person with the right training can get someone to tell them something they desperately want to keep hidden. Now, you might be thinking, Arthur, that's for criminals and spies. That has nothing to do with me. And that's where you'd be dangerously wrong. Because the very same principles that work in a stark, windowless room in the back of a precinct work just as well over a cup of coffee, in a sales meeting, or even across your own dinner table. The world has gotten very good at pulling strings, and most people don't even realize they're puppets. My name is Arthur Hayes. For 35 years I was a private detective. My specialty was sitting across from people, good people who made bad choices, bad people who were good at lying, and finding the truth. I'm retired now, but I see these manipulation tactics being used everywhere, and frankly, it's starting to bother me. I see them used in advertisements that make you feel inadequate. I see them in political speeches that make you feel afraid. And, most troubling, I see them used by predators to separate good people, especially seniors, from their peace of mind and their life savings. So, today, we're pulling back the curtain. I am going to walk you through 5 of the most powerful psychological manipulation tactics that I, seen, used time and time again, not just in my professional life, but out here, in the real world. This isn't about teaching you how to be a manipulator. God knows we have enough of those. This is about handing you the shield. It's about turning on the lights so you can see the tripwires before you stumble. I remember a case, a woman named Eleanor, a widow in her late 70s, sharp as a tack. She lost her entire nest egg to a man who called himself an investment advisor. When her family brought me in, I asked her how it happened. She couldn't explain it. He was just so trustworthy, she kept saying. He understood me. That's the hallmark of a master manipulator. They don't feel like a threat. They feel like a friend. The man who conned Eleanor didn't use a weapon, he used her own mind against her. He used trust, authority, and confusion as his tools. By the end of this discussion, you will understand the mechanics of what he did, and you will be far better equipped to ensure it never happens to you. Are you paying attention? Because the lesson starts now. The first and most fundamental tool in the manipulator's kit is something we called emotional mirroring. On the surface, it seems harmless, even friendly. It's the act of subtly mimicking another person's body language, speech patterns, and emotional state to build a rapid sense of rapport. You lean forward, they lean forward. You speak softly. Their voice drops to a whisper. You express frustration about the weather, and suddenly, they're just as upset about the forecast. It sounds simple, but it's devastatingly effective because it bypasses your conscious, logical mind and speaks directly to your primal instincts. Your brain, on a subconscious level, registers this mimicry and says, "This person is like me. This person is safe. This person is part of my tribe." And once that happens, your defenses start to crumble. I remember a suspect we brought in, a young man named Jimmy, suspected of being part of a high-end car theft ring. He was cocky, smiling, and had an answer for everything. My younger partner, a good detective but a little green, went in first. After 30 minutes, he came out shaking his head. "I can't get a read on him, Arthur," he said. "He feels like a buddy. I almost believe him." I watched the tape. Jimmy was a master of mirroring. When my partner leaned back, Jimmy leaned back. When my partner scratched his chin, Jimmy, a few seconds later, would touch his face. He was creating a bubble of artificial camaraderie. So I went in. I did the opposite. I sat perfectly still, my posture rigid. I kept my voice flat, an absolute monotone. I broke the mirror. Jimmy tried to mirror me, but he couldn't get a purchase. He became visibly agitated. The lack of connection, the absence of that feedback loop he was so used to creating, threw him completely off balance. The smooth facade cracked, and within an hour he was giving us the names of his associates. This happens to you every day. A skilled salesperson will mirror your stance and your enthusiasm for a product. A new acquaintance who wants something from you will laugh at the same moments you do and echo your opinions back to you. It's not just about body language, it's emotional. They'll reflect your anxieties back to you as shared concerns or your hopes as shared dreams. The simplified psychology here involves what are called mirror neurons. These are brain cells that fire both when we perform an action and when we see someone else perform that same action. They are the foundation of empathy and social connection. Manipulators hijack this natural system, creating a false sense of empathy to lower your guard. So here are your questions. Have you ever met someone for the first time and felt an almost magical instant connection, like you've known them for years? Could they have been mirroring you? And a more active question. The next time you're in a conversation where you feel that intense rapport building, try subtly changing your posture. Cross your arms for a moment, then uncross them. If the other person follows suit within a few seconds, a little alarm bell should go off in your head. The counter strategy is awareness. When you feel that overwhelming sense of comfort with a new person, pause internally. Ask yourself, is this feeling earned, or is it being manufactured? That simple question can be the difference between making a new friend and becoming a new victim. The second technique is more direct, and it plays on a fundamental human weakness, the irresistible urge to be right. We call it elicitation via false statements. The principle is simple. People cannot stand to let an error go uncorrected. If you want to know a piece of information, don't ask for it directly. Instead, state a wrong fact with confidence. The other person's instinct to correct you will be so strong that they will often blurt out the very information you were looking for without a second thought. It's like a psychological crowbar. Asking a direct question puts a person on guard. They ask themselves, why do they want to know? What will they do with this information? But making an incorrect statement invites them into a position of power. For a fleeting moment, they are the expert, the teacher, and you are the misinformed student. The ego loves this. Let me give you a case example. We were investigating an insurance fraud scheme. We suspected the claimant, a man named Mr. Abernathy, had faked a back injury to get a massive payout. We had him on surveillance and he was moving just fine, but we needed to nail down his alibi for a specific date when he claimed he was bedridden. Sitting in his living room, with his lawyer present, I didn't ask, "What were you doing on June 12th?" Instead, I looked at my notes and said, "So, the records show that on June 12th, the day of your supposed incapacitation, your wife was out of town visiting her sister in Albany." Mr. Abernathy puffed up with indignation. "Albany? She hasn't been to Albany in years. She was right here with me all day. We watched the baseball game, the one that went into extra innings." Just like that, he placed his wife at the scene as his alibi, which was exactly what we needed. We already knew his wife had used her credit card that afternoon at a shopping mall 50 miles away. He didn't just give us the information, he delivered it with passion, anchored to a memory of a baseball game, all because his ego couldn't let my mistake about Albany slide. You see this in less dramatic settings all the time. At a party, someone trying to fish for gossip might say, "It's a shame that Robert and Susan are selling their house." A friend in the know will immediately jump in. "They're not selling, they're just getting a new roof," Susan told me last week. The information is given freely, volunteered to correct a simple error. Online, phishing scams use this. They'll send an email that says, "There is a problem with your recent order for a product you never bought." Your immediate reaction is to click and correct the error, leading you right into their trap. The psychological principle at play is a mix of ego and what's known as the reciprocity principle. By offering a piece of information, the manipulator creates a subtle social obligation for you to offer a piece of information in return to balance the scales. So, reflect on this for a moment. How often do you feel a visceral need to correct someone, even a stranger on the internet, when they get a fact wrong? Have you ever given away more information than you intended simply to win a minor point in an argument? The defense is simple, but it requires discipline. When someone makes an incorrect statement, especially one that pertains to your life or information you hold, resist the urge to correct it. Instead, engage your curiosity. Ask a simple, disarming question. "Oh, where did you hear that?" This flips the script. It puts the burden back on them to justify their statement and gives you the time to assess their motives. You are not obligated to fix everyone's mistakes. Sometimes, letting them be wrong is the smartest thing you can do. The third tactic is a 1-2 punch that preys on our deepest societal instincts: authority and social proof. Human beings are wired for hierarchy. For millennia, our survival depended on listening to the tribal chief, the elder, the strongest warrior. We developed a mental shortcut. If someone in a position of authority tells you to do something, it's probably wise to do it. Manipulators know this and are masters at creating the illusion of authority. This isn't just about a uniform or a fancy title. It can be a sharp suit, a confident voice, a well-designed website, or a vocabulary filled with impressive-sounding jargon. They project an aura of expertise that makes you doubt your own judgment and defer to theirs. Then comes the second punch: social proof. If appealing to authority doesn't work, they'll appeal to the herd. This is the everyone else is doing it argument. The manipulator will imply or state outright that your friends, your neighbors, or people you admire have already bought in. This exploits another cognitive shortcut. If a lot of people are doing something, it must be the correct thing to do. It's a powerful force because it triggers our fear of being left out, of being the only one who doesn't get it. When you combine a false sense of authority with the pressure of social proof, you create a psychological trap that is incredibly difficult to escape. I worked on a heartbreaking series of cases involving an investment scam targeting retirees. The ringleader was a man we'll call the doctor, though he had no such degree. He rented a lavish office, wore impeccably tailored suits, and peppered his speech with complex financial terms. He was the picture of authority. When a potential victim hesitated, he would move to phase 2. He'd open a drawer and pull out a file saying something like, "I understand your caution." Your neighbor, Mr. Henderson from down the street, felt the same way at first. Now he's thrilled with his 15% returns. So is Mrs. Gable, the former school principal. In fact, most of the folks from your church are already on board. He was lying, of course, but by invoking the names of neighbors and respected community figures, he created an immense pressure to conform. The victims thought, if all these smart, responsible people are doing it, it must be safe. I'd be a fool to miss out. This is the entire business model for so many modern enterprises. Think about online reviews. A product with thousands of 5-star ratings, social proof, makes you feel confident in your purchase. But how many of those reviews are fake? Think about those commercials with actors in white lab coats, the costume of authority, touting a new miracle supplement. The psychology behind this is well documented. Stanley Milgram's famous experiments showed that people would obey commands from an authority figure even if it meant harming others. Similarly, the Asch conformity experiments proved that people will ignore the evidence of their own eyes and agree with the group consensus. We are social creatures, and these instincts run deep. So I ask you, when was the last time you made a decision, a purchase, a vote, a personal choice, based on a celebrity endorsement, or because it seemed like the popular thing to do? Have you ever felt pressured to agree with a group, even when your gut was telling you something was wrong? The counter-strategy requires a healthy dose of skepticism and moral courage. First, always verify credentials. True authority welcomes scrutiny, false authority resents it. Ask for documentation, licenses, and references. Second, learn to be comfortable with being the odd one out. The fact that everyone is doing something is not evidence that it's a good idea. In fact, it's often a red flag. Your life savings and your peace of mind are worth more than fitting in. Our fourth tactic exploits a simple biological reality. The brain gets tired. I'm talking about cognitive overload. Your capacity for rational thought and careful decision-making is a finite resource. Think of it like a muscle. You can lift a heavy weight a few times, but if you keep doing it without rest, the muscle fails. A manipulator uses this by deliberately overwhelming you with information, choices, questions, or pressure, forcing you into a state of decision fatigue. When your brain is exhausted, it looks for the easiest path forward. It stops analyzing and starts looking for an escape, and the manipulator is always there to offer you their preferred easy solution, which usually involves you signing on the dotted line. In my line of work, we saw this in long, drawn-out interrogations, but the most potent example I can give you is from a fraud case involving a shady financial advisor. This fellow's method was a masterpiece of cognitive overload. He'd sit his clients, usually older couples, down in his office for a financial review. For 3 solid hours, he would bombard them. He'd flash dozens of complex charts and graphs on a screen, each one filled with tiny numbers and squiggly lines. He'd use a torrent of jargon, alpha-beta separation, non-correlated asset classes, tax loss harvesting, until their eyes glazed over. He would spread a mountain of paperwork across the desk, dozens of pages of dense legal text. By the end of the 3 hours, the couple would be mentally exhausted, confused, and a little embarrassed that they couldn't keep up. That's when he'd slide a single, simple-looking form in front of them. "Now, this is just the standard authorization to let us get started," he'd say with a reassuring smile. "Just sign right here." Too tired to read another word, too drained to ask another question, they'd sign. They were signing away control of their life savings, but at that moment, all they wanted was for the information onslaught to stop. This is the exact strategy used by high-pressure salespeople everywhere. The car salesman who drowns you in details about engine specs, financing options, extended warranties, and manager's specials is not trying to inform you, he's trying to exhaust you. By the time you get to the finance manager's office, you've made so many small decisions that you have no mental energy left to fight over the inflated fees and unnecessary add-ons. The psychological reason for this is that your brain's executive function, the part responsible for willpower, focus, and complex decision-making, is housed in the prefrontal cortex. This area consumes a tremendous amount of energy. When it's depleted, your brain defaults to more primitive, emotion-based decision-making. You stop thinking, "Is this a good long-term choice?" and start thinking, "What's the fastest way to make this pressure go away?" I want you to think about this in your own life. Have you ever agreed to something just to end a conversation or a negotiation? Do you ever feel so overwhelmed by the terms and conditions of a contract that you just scroll to the bottom and click, "I agree"? That is you experiencing cognitive overload. The defense against this is perhaps the simplest and most powerful phrase in the English language. I need to think about it. This is your emergency brake. No legitimate offer expires the second you walk out the door. No honest person will deny you the time to review a contract or sleep on a decision. When you feel that sense of mental fog, that pressure to decide right now, it is a giant, flashing red light. Step back, take a break, go for a walk. Let your brain rest and recharge. A clear mind is your best defense and a manipulator's worst enemy. The fifth and final tactic we'll discuss today is the most subtle and, in many ways, the most insidious. It's called environmental control, and it's the art of manipulating a person's surroundings to influence their mood, their comfort, and ultimately, their decisions. Most people are not consciously aware of how profoundly their environment affects them, which is precisely why it's such a powerful tool. A manipulator can orchestrate the setting to make you feel intimidated, disoriented, tired, or even obligated, all before a single word of substance is spoken. They are setting the stage for your compliance. The classic example, of course, is the interrogation room at an old-school precinct. Everything in that room is by design. The suspect's chair has slightly shorter legs, forcing them into a subconscious position of supplication, literally having to look up at the detectives. The room is kept uncomfortably cold to create a low-level physical stress. There are no windows and no clock on the wall, deliberately creating a sense of timelessness and isolation. The lighting is often harsh and focused on the suspect's chair. Even the table might be positioned to give the interrogator more space, establishing dominance. None of these things are accidental. They are all small environmental nudges designed to make the suspect feel off balance, powerless, and more psychologically pliable. But this isn't just for cops and robbers. This happens everywhere. Think about the layout of a casino. There are no clocks, no windows to the outside world. The lighting is always the same, whether it's 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. The pathways are a deliberate maze, designed to keep you wandering past more and more games. The sounds of slot machines paying out are amplified to create an atmosphere of constant winning. Your entire sensory experience is being curated to make you lose track of time and money. Or consider a more common scenario: a job interview. Have you ever been ushered into an office where you are seated in a low, soft chair while the interviewer sits high behind a massive, imposing desk? That's an intentional power play. They are using furniture to establish dominance. Even scents can be used. Real estate agents famously bake cookies or bread before an open house to create a warm, homey feeling that evokes positive emotions in potential buyers. The science behind this is rooted in our limbic system, the part of our brain that processes emotions and sensory input. Our bodies react to our environment on a primal level, long before our conscious mind has time to analyze it. A cold room triggers a low-grade stress response. Dim, warm lighting can make us feel relaxed and less guarded. An imposing physical space can make us feel small and insignificant. A manipulator understands this and uses the environment as an accomplice in their efforts to influence you. So, ask yourself, have you ever been in a place where you just felt off? A room where you felt inexplicably anxious, or a negotiation where you felt physically uncomfortable? Pay attention to that feeling. It's your subconscious mind picking up on environmental cues. The next time you walk into an important meeting or a sales office, take 30 seconds to consciously notice your surroundings. How is the room arranged? Where are you being asked to sit? Is it too hot, too cold, too bright? The counter strategy is to assert control over your own comfort. If a chair is uncomfortable, ask to move. If the sun is in your eyes, ask to adjust the blinds. If you're feeling overwhelmed, suggest moving the conversation to a more neutral location, like a coffee shop. By simply noticing the environment and making small adjustments, you are signaling to the manipulator, and more importantly, to yourself, that you are not a passive participant. You are aware and you are in control. So, let's bring it all together. We've walked through 5 of the manipulator's most trusted tools. First, emotional mirroring, creating a false sense of instant connection to lower your defenses. Second, elicitation via false statements, using our innate desire to correct errors to make us volunteer information. Third, the combination of authority and social proof, preying on our instincts to obey experts and follow the herd. Fourth, cognitive overload, exhausting our mental resources to force a quick and poorly thought-out decision. And fifth, environmental control, shaping our surroundings to subconsciously influence our mood and our will. Each one of these is powerful on its own. When used in combination, they can be devastatingly effective. But, as you've seen today, they all have a weakness. They all have a counter. The common thread that runs through all of these defenses is a single, powerful concept: awareness. Manipulation thrives in the shadows of reflexive, autopilot behavior. It works when you're not paying attention. The moment you switch from being a passive participant in a conversation to being an active observer, the game changes entirely. The moment you start asking yourself, why are they doing that? Why do I feel this way? What is their goal here? You take back the power. You can't be a puppet if you can see the strings. I want to be perfectly clear. I didn't share this information with you so you could go out and use it. The world has enough people playing these kinds of mind games. I shared it with you so that you can become immune to them. Knowledge, in this case, is not a weapon, it is a shield. It's about protecting your autonomy, your finances, and your peace of mind. I think back to Eleanor, the widow who lost everything. The man who conned her used every single one of these tactics. He mirrored her loneliness. He used false statements to get details about her finances. He projected immense authority. He overloaded her with confusing paperwork, and he always met her in her own home, a place of comfort where her guard was down. If she had recognized even one of those red flags, the outcome might have been different. This isn't about becoming paranoid. It's about becoming discerning. It's about trading naive trust for informed trust. Most people in the world are good, but the predators are skilled, and they count on your goodness, your politeness, and your natural human instincts to be their tools. Don't let them. Your mind is your own. It's the most valuable thing you will ever possess. Learn to guard it. Practice paying attention. Practice pausing before you decide. And practice politely questioning things that don't feel right. That is your true power. Which of these tactics shocked you the most? Or which one have you seen most clearly in your own life? Leave a comment below. Hearing your stories helps everyone in this community stay sharp. And if you found this valuable, subscribe for more insights from my case files. Next week, we're going to discuss a very practical skill: how to spot a liar in the first 3 seconds of a conversation. You won't want to miss it.